Hello, thanks for watching this Riviera playthrough. I'm Regdrin, and sitting next to me is my brother R-Typer.
Hello, people of the internet.
I know, there's so many of them.
Too many.
Too many? What? How are you gonna get rid of them?
Okay, I'm just gonna have to deal with it.
So, this is Riviera. This is a game that we've both played quite a bit. Now, if it was published by Atlas, or at least brought over here by Atlas...
Which means that there was only one copy in the store when we went to get it.
Yeah, the Atlas brand means that you have to buy it right away, or it becomes an eBay darling.
This game was actually originally published for the WonderSwan Color, a handheld put out by Bandai Entertainment that never actually made it to the US because while it had okay graphic hardware, its sound hardware was about on par with that of the original Game Boy.
Yeah, so while we could have just blundered through the Japanese of the WonderSwan, this is just plain better.
In every way.
Now, the introduction when you press start is actually different from the introduction when you just let it go. For example, the let alone introduction tells you a couple of things that this doesn't. The gods actually died creating the Grim Angels, which explains quite a few things.
And good riddance, too. I think Department Heaven is the only setting I know of that's actually improved by the apocalypse.
Speaking of which, let's talk about Riviera.
Oh, yeah, that game.
Well, not just the game, but the place. Remember what it used to be? It used to be, well, hell.
Yeah, they just sort of turfed it over and turned it into a park.
Now, what first got you interested in this game?
Well, coming across, and I am making air quotes here, the Japanese version.
Okay, so you played a bit of the Japanese version and you said, hey, this has a super meter, that means it's good.
More or less.
So you kept track of it from then on?
Absolutely. I was kind of wondering if it would actually get brought over. I thought the chances of it were pretty low, but then Atlas.
Yes, so thank you, Atlas.
For giving me another game to obsess over incessantly to the detriment of everyone around me.
On the other hand, this is one of the few games, well, one of the few RPGs that you actually completed.
Yes, well, at least completed without using someone else's save in the end. I would also like to thank you for providing that for Final Fantasy 6 and 7.
Oh, you're welcome. That's the sort of thing I do, you know?
Yeah, it kind of helps that this game is not one of the huge mega RPGs.
Although there is a lot to do, and the introduction is...
Over,
yes.
Okay, Chapter 1, or The Tutorial That Hates You.
Yes. Although, I don't know. I think it's in character for the people to hate you.
Yeah, and one thing that isn't mentioned is that this first room is actually right outside the mausoleum where the Grim Angels are put into storage units.
Yeah, I actually didn't know about that. Where'd you find out?
I think it was in one of the supplemental books. Pretty much all of those have had somebody pore over them and translate them or whatever. So yes, the thing about the battles in the tutorial is that it's impossible to lose any of them.
That's because of Leda.
Yes, Leda with his incredible health regeneration.
And incredible attack power, and he's cold and aloof. He will clearly, however, be a big help to you throughout the entire game.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
Now, something I tried to do here, through as many of the fights as I could remember it, is to bring up the battle advice that should be coming up very soon.
Yeah, the thing about Riviera is that it's actually incredibly transparent about the information it gives you as far as battles and enemy weaknesses and your character's own resistances even.
What it's not so transparent about at the start is that you can actually look these things up. Usually you don't even realize it until Chapter 2, where it displays that menu right at the start.
Yeah, I think it might be in the manual, but who reads those?
Yeah, so I suspect that a lot of people who played through the game, or at least the first time through, have not seen the advice that I'm going to bring up. Although in the first battle it just says, "Let us got this."
Well, that's pretty much the tutorial chapter in a nutshell. And the tutorial is the whole chapter.
Well, it's a bit less tutorial later in the chapter.
I wouldn't know about that, because you still can't lose.
So, by your definition, the tutorial part is defined by when you cannot lose.
Yeah.
That would mean that... Okay, there's some games out there that technically have no tutorials, even though they tell you what to do at the start.
Judgment has been passed.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, score affects how much you can explore stuff, apparently.
Well, the battle rank affects how much you can explore stuff.
Well, the battle rank is tied to score, and this is probably one of the few RPGs that actually has a scoring system.
Yeah, it's the only RPG with a score system that I know of.
Yeah, the thing about the Department Heaven games is that they have episode numbers, and the episode numbers are related to how much they diverge from traditional RPG mechanics.
This one isn't too high because it still has most of the trappings of a normal RPG.
Yeah, Riviera is episode 1, Yggdra Union is episode 3, and Nights in the Nightmare is episode 4. Sting is currently working on episode 9.
So I wonder if it'll even have things like health, or...
I wonder if you'll have to use the controller.
Now, what you'd notice there was that I used the look system, which I'm technically not supposed to know about yet.
Yeah, one of the things about Riviera and its exploration system is that there's actually no free roaming, and it really distills it down to the basic notes of what an RPG requires. Oh, ominous music.
Yep, Hector. Now, I just finished a big Fire Emblem binge off of this, so when I saw the name Hector, I thought, oh my god, he's gonna kick our ass with an axe.
Yes, Hector. One of the few reasons I tried to play Fire Emblem 7.
He was just that awesome.
Yes.
But then you realized that it was Fire Emblem.
Yes, it was Fire Emblem.
So you played this instead.
Yes. Okay.
Well, and Hector's gone. You never see any other Magi, do you?
Actually, we only really have it on his word and the intro that there are other Magi.
Well, I think we can believe the intro, because it tells the truth about the other things. What we might take with a grain of salt is that he represents the other Magi.
Anything he says, basically.
Although he sounds reasonable enough at the start.
Yeah. Though, you know how these things go. It's a JRPG.
And from just looking at the floor, I get all, what am I fighting for?
I'm not gonna do the joke. It's too early in the morning.
Oh, thanks. That's real decisive of you, Ein. Although that's a theme of Chapter 1.
Don't worry, he'll get better.
Yeah. Though I sort of wonder why he's so much weaker than everything else in Chapter 1. I mean, he's a Grim Angel, which is one of the most powerful things around.
Keep in mind that Ein hasn't exactly thrown himself completely into the whole Grim Angel thing.
It has occurred to me that...
Oh, I think we should talk about game mechanics. The thing is, enemies have super meters too.
Yes, well, they share a super meter, but close enough. They also tend to use it a lot more than you do.
Yeah, the thing is, when you encounter enemies in groups like this, whenever you kill an enemy, it actually shortens the enemy's rage bar, so they use super attacks more often the more enemies you kill.
Right, and here's the tutorial about how to use items, but first I'm gonna try to break the script. But the game's having none of that.
Again, the tutorial that hates you.
Well, in this case, they don't really, say that they don't really make fun of you in this one. Except, well, okay, never mind, I take that back.
I told you!
Fine, fine. Since everyone yells at me to drink the potion, I'll do it. By the way, remember that everyone yelled at me to drink the potion because it links to what they say later.
Yeah, the thing about healing items is that they tend to do a lot of healing, however, they take up a slot in your item rack.
Yeah, that's why I pretty much never use healing items after Chapter 1.
Now, healing weapons?
Well, there our opinions differ. I rarely use healing weapons later on in the game, but that's more of a personal style thing. Plus, whether or not you're going heavily for score.
I, on the other hand, am terrible at games, so I use all the healing weapons I can.
Yeah, well, I guess they're made for people like you.
Yep. Oh, look at me, I'm playing Phantasy Star 4!
What's wrong with that?
It doesn't require as much strategy as this one does.
Well, I respect any game that allows macros.
Oh, okay.
Which is Phantasy Star 4, and that's about it.
Actually, Phantasy Star 2 is all about setting macros.
Oh yeah, right, I forgot about that.
Just wind up your party and let them go.
Yeah, that's why I think it's quite appropriate that Phantasy Star 3 used the key item for...
Yeah, but no one cares about Phantasy Star 3.
Yeah, and I struggle and struggle to make Ein do something useful in this battle, but...
Well, that's the problem. Oh yes, the thing about the weapons in use here, different weapons have different ranges of enemies they can attack.
Like, Einherjar, I much prefer the name Ecthalion, but Einherjar attacks the full row, which will be useful when it gains attack power.
Well, Ecthalion was more appropriate when the main character's name was Ecthal.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think Ein is a better name for the person, but Ecthalion is a better name for a weapon.
Well, they have to name the weapon somewhat after the character. It's just a thing they do.
Sigh. Well, I checked their stats earlier, and stat-wise, Ein actually isn't that much weaker than Leda. It's just the regeneration and also...
4-hit weapon attack.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the thing is, multi-hit weapons are a bit of a, pardon the expression, double-edged sword. Because while they boost your super meter faster, they also boost the enemy's super meter faster.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, because enemy rage and max moves also charge up your overdrive a lot. So if you're aiming to win a battle quickly, you'll want to make the enemy rage and fill up your overdrive to level 3 really fast.
And hope they don't kill you.
Well, if you've been training, or if you're in Chapter 1, there's really no danger of that.
We'll talk about training when we get to that.
Yes, we definitely want to tell rather than show, though.
What? Oh, right. Yeah, the thing about training is that training is the equivalent of random encounters.
And it's extremely boring because you aren't even out to kill them a lot of the time. But we haven't even reached training. We'll go more into that later.
Yeah, the thing about battles in this game is that in at least the story mode, there are no random battles, there are no infinitely spawning monsters.
And I wanted Ein to get the last hit on encounter just once in this chapter, even though I got a B rank for doing that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, here we go. This is the description of how items work.
This is the one game I can that has item durability that I can stand. But we'll...
Oh, he says they're lecturing him on using his items more carefully from now on, even though I just used the potion once, and that's because everyone was yelling at me to do it.
Again, the tutorial that hates you.
Oh yeah, also, when I went forward, I checked with the looks function and nothing showed up. So once again, the game is yelling at you for being unobservant, even though there was nothing there.
Uh-huh.
I actually kind of like the move/look mode here, because walking around dungeons can be pretty tedious sometimes.
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree there. Even though I like the game's art style.
And you're a big fan of Phantasy Star 4, which is one of the kings of walking around dungeons.
The real king of walk speed would have to be no, not that. Shining Force 2.
Yeah. Yeah, that's more like you're the Doom guy of fantasy games.
Oh, yes, fantasy Doom guy.
Trigger points. Get S ranks and you will never run out.
Absolutely. And trigger points are used for things like opening chests, so...
Yeah, although there are a lot of useless things which I will nonetheless show off.
Oh, absolutely, because you're all about useless things.
Well, I would skip a lot of the useless things, except this is for the internets, and they love watching useless things.
Yes. I would make a joke about that, but then I just finished up a Let's Play.
Now, that was a long time for a really short section.
Yeah. It's actually the exploring parts that take the most time in Riviera. Well, and the dialogue.
Especially in this part of the game. This is one of those useless things. There are gonna be a lot of these.
Yeah, the game likes to jabber at you a whole bunch in the early segment. I think that Chapter 2 may actually be shorter in that respect.
I would be very surprised if it was longer.
Okay, our first chest. This one did not have a trap. Don't get used to this.
Yeah, Chapter 1 is very strange in that regard. Also, it has potions, which I will very rarely use. Well, I already went over that. And once again, Rose makes fun of Ein, unprovoked. And Rose is his familiar.
Oh yes. Nobody from the Divine Realm likes Ein.
I suspect that at least part of the reason for sending him down here is that Hector wanted to get rid of him.
Maybe.
I mean, he's idealist, he already doesn't agree with Hector.
Not agreeing with Hector is grounds enough for being gotten rid of by Hector.
Death to all sinners.
And I think you can see Knights in the Nightmare for that.
Oh yeah, this is where they teach you how to learn over skills.
Hit stuff with the weapon you want to learn skills with.
Yeah, that's the entire experience system.
I think the battles will get more interesting once we have more types of characters that use more types of weapons.
Yeah, that's the main objection I have with Chapter 1. But still, Chapter 1 managed to hook you into the game.
Well, the reason it managed to hook me into the game was more or less because the game didn't spend any time faffing about with things that weren't the actual plot.
So, how far in would you say it hooked your interest?
I'd say during 1-1.
Okay, then. So, you start the game and hey, there's demons.
You start the game and hey, here's the actual plot is what I'm saying.
Oh, so you're doing things.
Yes.
And although we make fun of the tutorial a lot, it's still very dungeon-like and...
Riviera has a great soundtrack.
Well, yes, that too. I actually wasn't thinking about that part of it, but you do have a good point. Even though all of the battles have the same music in Chapter 1.
Well, that's because this music is actually the theme music for the Grim Angels overall.
Yeah, for a while I thought it was just Letta's theme music, because whenever it's Ein on his own, you don't really hear it. Well,
that's because Ein isn't actually all that grim.
Yeah. In the Japanese version, the name is closer to Death-Bringing Angelics.
It's Deathbringer Angelics, yes.
Which, I guess that was a bit too grim for this version.
Also, it kind of sounds a bit overdone, like the kind of thing you'd hear in a 90s comic book.
Okay.
It's like a Liefeld superhero name.
I'll admit that Grim Angel is easier to say.
Yes.
And this is one of the few times I used the full Lost Seraph.
Yeah, you can get an S rank pretty much on any level you use an execution skill, but if it fails, you've just broken your super meter.
Yeah, on the other hand, Letta pretty much kills things whenever.
Letta does not care, he just does the job.
I will burn everything!
Alright.
Speaking of which, his regular attack is Fire Elemental.
Yeah. This is mostly good because enemies here tend to be weak to fire.
Not all of them.
Not all of them, yes. We'll see that soon enough.
Oh yes, each character has 4 stats. Strength, magic, agility, and vitality.
Yeah.
I can't remember all 4 stats.
And you've played through the entire game.
Yes, I have. Now, you increase strength, magic, and vitality through gaining overskills, but there's only one way in the game to increase agility.
Plot elements.
Yeah.
The first rock.
The first of many rocks.
Yes. Nearly every chapter has rocks, but not every chapter with a rock has a use for it.
Correct. Ein isn't tired of walking because... Ein isn't tired of walking because he isn't a lazy person. He doesn't use his wings all the time.
He probably would if he had them, though.
That's right, to become a Grim Angel you have to give something up.
Now, I wonder if anyone actually left after that little twinkle twinkle thing.
Well, when you release a game to Gen Pop, there's always someone.
It is a shiny object. Everyone's attracted to the shiny.
Oh, yeah.
Now, speaking of... Well, would you say that the Gen Pop would decide to not take the Wisp?
Yeah, they'd probably grab it.
Yeah. I wonder if anyone even knows the text when you decide not to take it.
And you weren't about to find out, were you?
No, I want to complete the game. This thing increases agility, and you've already described why that's important.
Yeah, agility affects the time between turns. You see, every action you take has a certain time consumption, a delay that affects when you can move again. Because this isn't entirely I go, you go turn-based.
Yeah, although I did some experimenting with the cape that increases agility, and even increasing agility by a lot has a fairly mild effect on turn waiting. The real benefit of agility is that it makes you hit more and dodge more.
Yes. Missing is bad, though I don't think we even needed to say that.
Nope. Now, I think even people new to the game would realize that looking at an open chest would be kind of useless, but completion.
Yep. You will get docked on your time reading for the chapter.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But I knew going into this LP that I'd be losing points on that.
Oh yes, another thing is that you can't just save whenever. You can suspend, but you can only hard save in between
sections.
Yeah, section breaks. Yeah, if you could only save in between chapters, that would be a problem. This isn't a very marathon-friendly game.
No, it's not. Especially with the timing mini-games. We'll go into that later. And
another speed bump.
Yeah. And the game isn't done restricting your stuff either.
What do you mean?
In this encounter, anytime that you have enough overdrive and it's Ein's turn, Rose will make you use an overskill.
I'd forgotten about that.
But my favorite part of the Rose not cheering you on is after you use it the first time. I mean, pretty much everyone going with you in Chapter 1 is there to
mock you.
Yes, mock you and also hold you back.
That's an amazing combination.
Yes.
One of the things is that I think Ein was actually stronger in Chapter 1 in the WonderSwan version.
Well, as I said, it's mostly due to the items, and I'm not just talking about the 4-hit attack, although there is that, but Einherjar's base attack power is also extremely low.
At least in this chapter.
And in the next one.
Well, it's more okay for the next one.
And here we go. I try to struggle with just using a normal attack because there's no reason to use overskill.
But nope. Do not pass go, do not collect $200.
I'll just use a potion just to spite you, you stupid familiar.
You dumb cat.
I won't hold back.
For level 1, this is actually not bad. Except you're next to Letta, who does more damage with his normal attack.
Don't let it go to you.
And Rosa's the one who wanted to see it. She still yells at you after this, too.
I swear, couldn't we have gotten a more helpful animal companion?
Yeah.
Though, with Ein's luck, it would probably be a little white one that would offer him a contract.
Yeah, don't listen to that one. Actually, I've been sort of curious about how the whole familiar thing works, because no one else ever has a familiar, so we don't see another one, and we're never told how one gets a familiar.
They figured that Ein needed one because he needed the hand-holding.
Even with Letta around?
Yes.
Well, actually, yes. Letta is reluctant to answer questions about anything, even though it's important to the mission.
Oh, Letta is a rather special case.
Very special.
Oh yeah, this is a percentage-based super, so it's gonna hurt you no matter when you encounter it.
On the other hand, it will never kill you.
Yeah, you actually have to worry more about dying in chapters that aren't this one. For reasons that we'll get into once we're there.
I don't have to worry about dying.
Thy sins shall be purged.
That's because you're crazy.
I won't deny that.
By the way, there are only 2 execution skills in the whole game.
Yeah. I use this one all the time, of course, but I rarely use the second one.
Judgment has been passed.
Well, I use the other one a lot because I don't like having to think about strategy.
Oh yeah, I got an A rank because I believe
Because Rose screwed you up.
Yes, because Rose screwed me up.
Yeah, heaven is a bit messed up and in disrepair ever since the gods left and didn't, keep up with sanitation or road maintenance or...
Well, heaven was a bit messed up even before all of this.
In an entirely different way. In fact, I think it's actually better this way.
Well, it's currently messed up in some of the same ways.
Twitch event.
Oh yeah, the first mini-game of the game. And its timing. Now, from this one, you'd get the impression that timing mini-games were reasonable. Wait till some of the later ones.
Yeah, another thing is that the cursor does not actually stop the instant you press the button. It actually slides a bit.
Well, input delay often happens with systems like that. It's not a huge amount, but... well,
it's enough to screw me over and over again.
Okay, fine.
Which is why I abused save states when I was making my boss compilation.
Also, 10,000 points is a lot for just one mini-game.
Well, there aren't that many in this chapter. Cavern of Judgment.
What about that name sort of gets... You seemed irritated.
It's just a tunnel!
It's just a tunnel.
Yes, it's just a tunnel.
Why did I stop there? Oh yeah, looking at sunlight. This is more productive than it sounds, despite the fact that looking at surroundings before was often useless, despite what Liam Neeson says.
Well... you can't trust Jedi.
Or Ra's al Ghul, I guess.
Oh, an enemy that's actually weak against Holy.
Yeah.
Death to all sinners.
Letta still does more damage, though.
Oh, of course.
In Rage mode or Max Attack, Rage and Max are different things. I know it's a minor quibble, but this whole chapter has me irritated because of the yelling and the mocking and the...
Well, we'll be getting out of this chapter eventually.
We're not even halfway through. You have nothing to say to this.
Absolutely not. Yes, some enemies can drain life.
Yeah. Only if they manage to hurt you, though.
Oh yeah, the color of the damage indicator actually indicates what kind of element you just got smacked with.
Yeah, it is tough to tell sometimes without that.
By the way, enemies never actually attack with the Holy.
No, they attack with darkness, which is the extra element. There's the fire, water, lightning, and physical, and then there's holy.
Yes. And each character has different resistances to both. Both? There's more than both.
All of them, yes. Letta's resistance is obvious.
Aang has a bit of resistance to everything except, I think, physical. Or it might be something else. I don't know.
No, the way it works is he has a bit of resistance to everything in Chapter 1. Yeah, after he gets powered down, he's resistant to...
Spoilers!
Well, seriously? Do you think that people think that this state of events is gonna continue forever?
No.
Later on, he's slightly weak against elements, but he's strong against darkness.
And physical.
Only a little bit against physical.
This makes one of the later bosses very trivial, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Judgment has been passed.
Well, I find that a lot of the bosses are pretty trivial. Except maybe really late in the game. Oh yeah, another potion. I will never use that.
Yeah, I'm with you on the potion checking.
Okay, anyone ever played Dungeons and Dragons and is familiar with those really high-level staffs?
Yep.
Okay, the Retribution is a lot like a Retributive Strike. It releases all the power in there and it destroys everything.
Correct. So we're basically going to blow up the tidal land of the game is the whole mission thing.
Yep. Also, Ein asks if there's another way, and Letta doesn't actually answer the question. He just says, yeah, we're gonna do the Retribution.
He doesn't care.
He probably knows that there's some other way, too.
Okay.
There's only one place where the light doesn't shine, and then Ein bends over. Or a halcyon. That sounds really useful.
Too bad we won't be able to keep it.
Yeah. But it's worth a lot of points, and to me, that's the important thing.
This is the guy who, by the way, practiced up to get a double S rank in Nakaraga.
No, you can only get S double plus.
Same thing.
Actually, after a while... Oh yeah, Hector's back, blah blah blah. Yeah, Hector's really exaggerating things. Also, he gets more sinister with every word he says. Especially, no one asked you to think.
And what would really happen if there was another Ragnarok? Would the world be reduced to a looser pile of rubble? Oh dear.
Yeah. I probably should have known not to hit a painted texture. How that triggers a boulder, though, is a little strange.
Ein punched it really hard.
Okay, fine. On the other hand, I wouldn't have gotten the points if I hadn't been so hasty.
And you wouldn't have gotten mocked again either.
Well, yes.
Which is really what Chapter 1 is all about.
Chapter 1-5. It's all one fight.
Yes. However, we get a sword.
Yes, we get a sword. Rose says it's a trap. Rose is wrong. Rose is often wrong.
Ein, I'd be careful about taking out that sword!
What was that about?
Cedric.
Oh, yes. Well, no one likes Cedric. But we got the sword.
And it's a good one, too. Though we can't learn any skills from it ever.
Good thing you took my advice. Rose, you told me not to take it. Look at surroundings. That's useless. Thank you, Ein.
Well.
Oh yeah, if you fail at that minigame, you get a sword hilt, which is, as far as I can tell, is just there to torment item completionists.
Indeed. You might be able to do something with it, but I forget what.
No, you can't. It's completely useless. You shouldn't be surprised at that, really. In fact, item completionists as a whole would not be happy with this game, since there's one particular item you get, well, you have a chance for in the next chapter, but it's completely random, and you only get one shot at it.
Yep.
So,
okay. This is the enemy that, is actually strong against fire.
Yes, yes.
The one place in Chapter 1 where Ein can actually do more damage than Letta.
Yeah, even then, Letta's in no danger. He'd probably just gripe about wasting time if he had to do this on his own.
It would be nice to have taken the sword in the previous room.
Yes. And too bad for you if you had to get a sword hilt. Yeah, item completionists are not happy people. Yeah.
You're not a happy person, are you?
No, I'm not. Not really.
Yeah, the one thing about using the Dragon Killer is that it's actually a fairly slow attack.
Yeah, it has a weight of 50, I think.
Let's see. Well, we'll see right here.
Oh yeah, I was a little slow here because I was receiving a lecture about code and the one true bracket and the other true bracket. I'm not making that up.
You know how that can happen sometimes. Just out of the blue, someone will lecture you about machine language.
The annoying thing here is about getting an S rank, which is to say, figuring out exactly when a full Lost Seraph will do enough damage to get the kill.
This should probably be enough. Or I could be completely wrong.
Nah, you're right. This is about the right time. You don't even get an item though, just the trigger points.
No, items tend to be rather thin on the ground in Chapter 1.
On the other hand, there are lots of useless triggers here, so I really need the trigger points.
And now for another useless trigger.
What?
Useless fact.
Oh, yes.
God, you watched Animaniacs all the time!
I know, but that was a bit of, that was reaching a bit far, I think. Letta doesn't even know if that dragon sinned.
Judgment has been passed.
Yeah, he's a rather exterminatus kind of guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that sounds about right considering the mission.
Oh yeah, isn't there another timing game here?
Oh, of course, and it's a really important one, too.
Yeah, basically if you don't miss it, you lose out on a whole section of the chapter.
If you do miss it.
Don't. What's the difference?
One of the important things to remember is that timing mini-games don't actually have a time limit. And next video, we'll go over what we just discovered. Later.
See ya.